Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I am your host, Sean Butler, and I'm as cool as the other side of the pillow, or so I'm told. All right, folks, we are going to get into a small bit of news today, and then we're going to talk about Marvel Studios Phase 4, and just kind of go in depth on what some of the stuff that's been happening might, SEAN, I believe, might be affecting I got thrown off there. Sorry, folks. Let me try that again. We're going to be talking about Marvel Studios Phase 4 and how the shows we've been seeing, like Black Widow, WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and, of course, Loki will affect the upcoming movies and where I think Phase 4 will end and why. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. First, we have an announcement. We have been on the air for a while now. We got our 6-month anniversary coming up in August, our Post-it anniversary. But tomorrow we've got something a little bit special. Tomorrow we are going to be doing our 1,000th broadcast. Yes, we've been around annoying you that long. 1,000 broadcasts, which is pretty good. And we're going to have a special episode. We're going to run it at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And I am going to host that. That's right. I'm going to be the host for our 1,000th broadcast. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have questions and stuff going on for our producer and head honcho, Kyle Northrup, my co-host of In Stores This Week. We are going to have Amani Latif, the guy that does Black Comic University, which is one of the best shows on our network here. And of course, we have a luminary of the comic industry, someone who is known by all and loved by everyone, Nancy McCann, who does our Friday Night Live show. Nancy used to run a comic shop out here in Southern California, and now she's moved back east. I am mentally slipping on exactly where the location of the store is, but she is now a regular here on the show Friday nights. She does some great. If you haven't, she's in Cleveland, Tennessee, which must surprise the people of Tennessee that somehow Cleveland moved to Tennessee along with Nancy. That's how popular Nancy is, that when she moved to Tennessee, Cleveland picked up and moved with her. So she's in Cleveland, Tennessee, and she does this great thing on her show. And if you haven't been watching Friday Night Live, you need to check this out. She does this thing where she'll pull out an old photo and give you the story behind it. But the old photo is somebody like Jim Lee, who brought her lunch one day, or, some other famous comic person that she knows. And she gives that bit of history. And it's a real nice little treat every week. So you should be tuning in for that. But she will be here tomorrow along with Amani Latif and Kyle Northrup as we celebrate our 1,000th episode, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, here on The Experience. All right, let's get into, we're just going to do a couple bits of news. First off, for fans of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and other shows that he's been on, we know that Bob Odenkirk is currently in the hospital. No news has come. He collapsed on set last night. There hasn't been any updates on the news, but his former co-stars have all been coming out wishing him well, and we're pulling for him as well. So keep good thoughts for Bob Odenkirk. Hopefully we're going to hear some good news soon about him, so keep him in your thoughts. A little bit on some sad news, and this one hits a little home for me as I am a bass player, and we've lost Dusty Hill this morning. Dusty Hill, 72-year-old bassist for ZZ Top, one of the most iconic rock bands in the world. I mean, basically, you see them, you know who they are. It's one of the best trios of all time. Classic Southern Texas rock, and just just devastated to hear about his passing. Dusty Hill was an amazing bass player, and just very sad to hear about that. So our condolences to the members of ZZ Top, Dusty Hill's family, his fans, and his friends. So condolences out to him. I mentioned the other day that the Anazi Boys was going to be a new series over at Amazon Prime. Now, this one is not being connected to the Starz series American Gods, which is sad. Some of us hope that Orlando Jones would kind of make the jump over and continue to play Mr. Nancy. But we are hearing that Delroy Lindo has been cast as the lead for that series. So as much as we are saddened to hear Orlando Jones is not connected to the project, Delroy Lindo is an amazing actor, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the role. I don't know if he's playing Mr. Nancy, but from the way the series is described, it sounds like he probably is, because it's supposed to be about Mr. Nancy's children coming together and learning who their father really was. So that's kind of sounds like it's going to be that way. If you are online at all and you're seeing these absolutely amazing reviews coming in for James Gunn's Suicide Squad, I haven't seen this many positive reviews for a superhero movie ever, I think. I mean, this is way, way up there. I think if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, it's hard to find a negative critic review. I think there's like one from Entertainment Weekly, and that's about it. Everybody else seems to be absolutely loving this movie. So Suicide Squad coming out soon. I believe that's one that's going to be day and date also on HBO Max. So you may, if you are a subscriber to HBO Max, you may not need to pay for it because they don't do the additional fee like Disney Plus does. So, all right, I think that's all my news. I do little notes on envelopes just so I remember what's going on. I'm so professional, aren't I? Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to get into this. Marvel Phase 4. We just got a new trailer dropped today, and it's only a minute-long trailer for Shang-Chi. But, again, they're starting to hype that now that Black Widow is out and set aside. It's time to focus on Shang-Chi, which comes out in September. We still haven't got a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, but that's not due out until December. So I know a lot of people are freaking out that we haven't got a trailer for it yet. But besides the fact that I have a feeling this is going to be, it might be hard to do a spoiler-free trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home, but I think they're at least going to hold out a little while longer. Because, I mean, you've also got the Eternals coming out. So you've got other movies that you still got to hype. You've got at least you've got What If coming out next month. You have Hawkeye and Ms. Marvel that are both supposed to debut within this year. So that's like 6 Marvel properties that are still on the slate for the second half of the year. And we're already through July. So we got 5 months left, 6 projects. That's a lot of stuff to start hyping. So I think they will get to Spider-Man No Way Home in due course. So, but let's go ahead and take a look at Marvel Studios Phase 4 lineup. Now, we're going to go back a little bit because it officially started with WandaVision in January of this year. And while the series was quite good, I mean, really good, it didn't do as much as what people expected it to do to set things up for the new phase. Now, I know a lot of speculation was, they're going to create the multiverse with this show. Wanda's going to do something and go crazy. And Wanda going crazy was the start of the show when she made her own little bubble. So, now what it did succeed at doing was introducing us to Sword. And we got a little bit of that at the end of the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, where we see Nick Fury in space. Now, but Sword is going to be a bigger part moving forward. We've also got the ramping up of Wanda's powers. to the point where she's actually the Scarlet Witch, and bringing us a new version of the Vision, since the Vision died in Infinity War. We needed a new version of the Vision. We got the White Vision, or there's another term they use for the Vision, but yeah, basically the soulless Vision, with no personality and no Mind Stone. It introduced us to Monica Rambeau, who will be part of the upcoming the Marvels series. And that's the funny thing with Monica Rambeau, is we don't know what her character's name is going to be, because that particular character has had multiple superhero names. She's been Captain Marvel, Photon, Spectrum, and I think there's like 3 or 4 other names that she's had at different points. I'd like to see them go with Spectrum or Photon, because I don't think we need another Captain Marvel. That just gets confusing. But we got that introduction. We also got introduced to 2 future heroes in Billy and Tommy, Wanda's children, or twins. And even though they get wiped out at the end, we hear their little voice in the post-credit scene, and there's a good chance they're coming back. Now, they grow into being the characters Wiccan and Speed, and as we see in WandaVision, they're growing up quickly, so they could be Wiccan and Speed like that. So, and also, it really kind of spotlighted the characters of Darcy and Jimmy Woo, who are both fun characters. And if you remember correctly, when all that was coming out, people were like, oh, we want to see a Disney Plus series that's just Jimmy Woo and Darcy traveling the countryside, solving, mysteries and stuff. So that shows you how well the show did that just elevated those characters. I mean, Darcy had been around since Thor, and Jimmy Woo was introduced in Ant-Man, but you didn't hear cries for their characters coming out of that. The end credit scene, it specifically cracked open the door to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness just a little, because the camera pan in they do, that is like straight out of Sam Raimi's playbook. That's his type of thing. So they really wanted to give us the obvious clue that, and Kevin Feige has come out as much as said it, this show, the WandaVision show, leads into Doctor Strange. But what we didn't realize is that there was going to be a few side trips. We're doing the cross-country road trip, but we're definitely stopping at the world's largest ball of twine. That's what Kevin Feige forgot to mention. All right, let's move on. The second entry in Phase 4 is, of course, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, this series feels like it was playing in a completely different corner of the MCU from WandaVision. This is a much more grounded area, which is amazing to say, since we were talking about super soldiers, men in wingsuits, vibranium shields, masked barons, power brokers, and I mean, all the stuff that they got going on. And this is the grounded part. We have just and minus the pandemic storyline, which, as much as I've really enjoyed The Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think it's always going to have that feel like there was a chunk of it missing, that it was kind of Patchwork Man back together after having to remove it. And I wonder if all that had been filmed. Could someday Marvel come back and put it back together how it was meant to be? I think that would be awesome. But that aside, it's a great story because it makes Sam's ascension to being the new Captain America not only makes sense, but seems like the only possible avenue. It's like the perfect road that Sam was meant to become the next Captain America. It helps Bucky move on from his past as a Winter Soldier. Now, is he going to be White Wolf moving forward? They kind of hint at that, but there's always a possibility he might be something else. But there's a good chance he's probably going to end up being the White Wolf. It turns Sharon Carter into a behind-the-scenes kind of baddie that we can count on now, that we can see her doing the machinations and whatnot. It brought us the story of Isaiah Bradley, which I think is probably some of the best storytelling Marvel has done. I mean, that story was so powerful, and I really think that Carl Lumbly did an amazing job in that role. Now, besides Isaiah Bradley, we got to meet Elijah Bradley, Eli, and he's going to grow up to be Patriot, or he does in the comics, and Joaquin Torres, who we meet and is Falcon's buddy, ends up becoming the Falcon, taking over the role of the Falcon when Sam becomes Captain America. And of course, in the series, Sam leaves him the wingsuit, his early wingsuit. So expect to see a new Falcon sometime in the future. We are also, now it wasn't supposed to be the first time we see her, but we get to see Contessa Valentina de la Allegro de Fontaine. Yeah, that long name. Contessa Val as the dark and she gets herself a dark version of Captain America when she recruits John Walker as U.S. agent. Plus, we got to spend a lot more time with Baron Zemo and his dance moves. That was a lot more fun than I expected. I really liked Zemo. I think Daniel Bruhl nailed it. Giving him more screen time was definitely a good choice. All right. Now, the third series we got, and we should have gotten Black Widow by this point, but we didn't because the pandemic kept moving it. But we go into Loki. And I think most people weren't sure what to expect when we got to Loki. Where was this going to go was the big question. Now, what this basically did was Loki that died in Infinity War, they kind of went, nay. We're going to go back to Loki from 2012, the Avengers, and we'll kind of do that same character growth that we got through all those Avenger movies and Thor movies and stuff, but we're going to do it in episode 1. Then we'll reinforce it, and then you'll have a hero Loki at the end of this journey. Come on, it'll be fun. And we all went, all right, let's go. And it was a great series. Now, they put him on this journey that would redeem him, and pushed him more to the light. But the other things they did was they introduced the TVA, the timekeepers, and the very idea of the multiverse. So where we thought we were going to get that from WandaVision, we ended up getting it here in Loki. This is the big ball of twine road trip or detour on our road trip that we didn't know we were going to take, but those big signposts got us to turn. Now, they also blow the multiverse apart after spending so much time explaining to us why it's very important to keep the multiverse exactly how it is, keep them contained. Then they blow it all apart. Just so that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness could happen, and whatever's going to be going on in Spider-Man No Way Home. So, plus we know now that Loki is supposed to appear in Doctor Strange. But what this does is this made it plausible for the inclusion of the Sam Raimi Doc Ock and the Mark Webb Electro, the Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina versions of these characters to suddenly appear in a new Spider-Man movie. Just like it set up the Multiverse of Madness. It also, all those crazy rumors we hear about Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and all these people popping up in the movie, now makes sense. It's plausible. Will they? Who knows? But now it's all plausible. But the biggest thing it did was, of course, introduce us to Kang the Conqueror without actually giving us Kang. What they did was they introduced us to He Who Remains. And they set up everything we needed to know, presented the stakes, and they shook up the entire MCU while saving the actual big bad that the phase is supposed to build up to by giving us a different version of him. Now, we're supposed to get him in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Well, we now know what he's going to look like. We have the vision of him. We got that little end, the end wink of Thanos from Avengers. That's what we got. The He Who Remains is not Kang. He's a variant, and he's the less deadly variant. Kang's going to be the big bad for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and there's a good chance he's going to be the big bad for this phase. But I'll get into that more. But what they did with Loki was quite a bit for just 6 episodes of a TV series. Now, where are we at on time here? All right, we're doing good. We're going to move into, of course, the first film in the new phase. And again, it had been postponed over and over and over. So when it finally came out, we were much further in the line than Marvel had originally planned. Black Widow was supposed to be the first appearance of Contessa Val. It was supposed to introduce us to Yelena Belova, who is most likely the new Black Widow, as well as Red Guardian, Iron Maiden, though they only call her Melina in this. They introduced us to the villain, the Taskmaster, and gave us a fitting farewell for one of the original Avengers. Now, this movie was playing much more on the grounded side of the MCU again. This is over here with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, with the Captain America movies, stuff like that. This is the grounded part of the MCU. And I kind of look at the MCU in 3 ways right now. You've got the grounded part, the mystical part, and the cosmic part. So right now we're hanging out in the grounded part. We haven't talked much about cosmic. We haven't gotten any real entries into the cosmic part of it. Those will be coming soon. So this is the grounded part, but again, like Falcon the Winter Soldier, we're talking about a movie that involves a mid-air battle among the debris of a flying city or a flying base. So even the most grounded parts of the MCU are pretty out there. The movie itself is supposed to take place between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. This answers basically what happens to Natasha from the point where she turns and fires on Black Panther, helps Cap escape, to when they show up to help Wanda and the Vision. It's hard to say Wanda and the Vision now because it's just WandaVision. But so that's kind of where it comes together. Now, the biggest thing for the new phase, while all of this takes place in the past, and we could get some of these characters going forward, we know we're going to get one specifically. And this is actually, if you haven't seen Black Widow yet, this is when the big spoiler roll should happen. Do we have a spoiler thing? I forgot to tell Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. All right. So, the biggest thing from this movie involving the stuff going forward is the mid-credit scene where Contessa Val goes to Yelena and we see that Natasha's grave and says, "I've got a new mission for you." And Yelena's like, "I want a raise." So right there, we've established that this is now after Endgame, and she's been working for Val for a while, or at least a mission enough that she thinks she needs your money. And Val shows her a picture of Clint Barton in his Ronin costume and says, "Here's your next target. This is the person responsible for Natasha's death, for your sister's death." Now, that right there suddenly ramped up the importance of the Hawkeye series, that there's no set release date for, but What If comes out August 11th. It's 10 episodes. So that should take us through August and well into September. They might release some overlapping because they're starting to run out of time. But I think either end of September or October, we will get the next Marvel live action series. And while it could be either one, what I'm hearing is it's going to be Hawkeye. I could be wrong, but I'm hearing it's going to be Hawkeye. And the stakes for this have really ramped up quite a bit now because of Yelena being involved, and that specifically Val is sending her after. Now, we don't think that Hawkeye is going to get killed, but then again, don't know. We will talk about Hawkeye in a minute, but like I said, I think this is going to be the really big push on that part of the MCU. That's going to be where we start getting more answers, or at least maybe some answers on what Val's doing, but we'll at least get an idea of what's going on. So, all right. We are coming up to the halfway point. Kyle, if you're ready, let's go ahead and throw this to commercial, and we'll pick up with What If when we come back. Hey everybody, welcome back. We are going through Marvel Phase 4, and I think we're through the spoilers, but we're just going to talk about what's coming up going forward now. Hey Jen, how you doing? Jen says, I love the breakdown. Thank you very much. This is a labor of love. So we're going to pick it up at What If, which will be the next thing we see. It's going to debut on August 11th. And now every indication is we've gotten from Marvel that this is going to be a series that's more for fun and will not mix into the actual canon. But I wonder about that because there's two ways Marvel can use this. It could be used to help introduce the idea of all the different multiverses and prepare viewers for some pretty drastic changes. This would basically help Marvel down the line when the multiverses are kind of brought back under control, but there are subtle changes in the MCU, kind of like how DC did Crisis on Infinite Earths. They kind of mushed everything back into one universe after Crisis, but they kind of set up the changes. Well, that's what Marvel could be doing here. So after everything's done, whether it's Ant-Man and the Wasp or it's Doctor Strange, and we get kind of the new MCU going forward, they could do such things as bringing characters back from the dead. They could switch actors, or even introduce whole new groups of characters as if they've been around all along. Basically, the series could be used to help set up a big reset button, allowing Kevin Feige and the company to tweak anything they want. They can pretty much go, oh yeah, we didn't mean to do that. It's fixed. Oh yeah, we didn't mean to kill that character. It's fixed. So they could really use it that way. The other option is that there could be some characters introduced in this series that could pop up in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And the one I'm thinking about is I keep hearing rumors, and again, they're absolutely only rumors, but that we're going to get introduced in the first episode of What If to a Peggy Carter version that takes the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers. Well, that character, known as Captain Carter, there's some rumblings that she may actually pop up in Doctor Strange. Again, no verification, no confirmation. It's just wild-ass speculation. But if they did that, it would tie What If in, and then when they compress everything back down, she's gone. Or they could keep her around and put her in the modern day. I mean, that's the point, is that they've got it set up that they could do just about anything going forward, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. So, all right. And then while What If is coming out, the next movie on the schedule, of course, is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is due out September 3rd. Now, I'm not exactly sure where this film fits in within the MCU right now. We're talking about martial arts film that also has live dragons. We're getting an appearance of the Abomination and Wong. This movie could be dancing the line between the grounded and the mystical. But my guess is that other than introducing us to this new character and a supporting cast, plus finally giving us a real version of the Mandarin, not the Trevor Slattery, Ultra Killian version, this film won't greatly affect things moving forward. And for a character's first appearance, I think that's more than enough. I don't think this needs to be MCU shaking, and we're getting enough shaking on the MCU from all these other things. I think Shang-Chi needs to be focused on Shang-Chi. So if we're getting these other characters, great. But otherwise, let's just focus on creating this franchise. But the other thing it could do is to introduce or reintroduce some characters that Marvel can play with later on. There's this report, again, there's a lot of rumors out there, but Kevin Feige once talked about the Netflix series and talked about how he was a big fan of Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, and everybody is a fan of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Come on, let's be serious. And John Bernthal as the Punisher. He never mentions anybody from Luke Cage. He never mentions anybody from Iron Fist. And they're pulling Mahershala Ali from Luke Cage to be Blade. So, but there's in these rumors that they're going to bring some of the characters he really liked over. Right now, there's a rumor that Kingpin is going to pop up in Hawkeye. And we hear that Charlie Cox as Daredevil is supposed to show up in Spider-Man No Way Home and She-Hulk. Kristen Ritter is supposed to show up in She-Hulk. And while all of these are always just rumors, it's possible. It's possible. Now, in the Shang-Chi story, there is this martial arts tournament going on. That's where we get Abomination and Wong showing up. We see a little bit more of it in the trailer that dropped today, but this would be an amazing place to introduce a character like Iron Fist. And if Marvel wants to move away from Finn Jones and just make it known that there's a new Iron Fist, this would be the place. You could have him cameo as one of the fighters. You could have him in the background And you don't even have to really cast him, because he could wear the mask and he could have the tattoo and stuff, and that's all you need to make it Iron Fist without actually making it the right actor, or the actor you're going to use going forward. Now, with what happened in Loki, they could choose to mix and match what they want from the canon now, and they could pick, like, okay, I want this actor and this actor, but we don't want this one. That's what they could do. And Shang-Chi would be a great place to introduce any of the mystical or the martial arts characters. So Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, the Daughters of the Dragons, Iron Fist. You could bring all of those characters in as cameos to help fill in this martial arts tournament without having to spend much time on it. And then later on you can do more. Maybe Iron Fist pops up in Shang-Chi too. I'd love to see that, because I think Iron Fist is one of my favorite characters in Marvel. I don't like what they did with the Netflix series, where I loved all the other series. I thought season 2 had potential that season 1 didn't, but it needs help. So let's salvage. Marvel could totally salvage Iron Fist and start here by just having him pop up. Now, like I said, there's a good chance that it's going to be. Well, we're supposed to get Hawkeye and Miss Marvel after that. Which one? It's still up in the air, but again, I think it's going to be Hawkeye. And with the Hawkeye series, we're going to get Yelena Belova again, as she hunts down Clinton Barton. But what we're also going to get is Kate Bishop, and we're going to meet her and her training. And Bishop's family has ties to the mob, which would explain the whole Kingpin connection if they bring him in. And we're also supposed to be introduced to the character Echo. Now, Echo is a former Daredevil love interest, but she's really, really popular right now because she just got the Phoenix Force. So in the comics, she's the new Phoenix. She's also will be the first deaf hero in the MCU. Her powers before she gets the Phoenix Force is she's a bit like the Taskmaster. She can mimic anybody's fighting style or powers that she sees that are actual physical things. She can't suddenly get the Hulk's strength or shoot optic blasts like Cyclops or anything like that. But she can fight like Iron Fist or Shang-Chi, stuff like that. So she's going to be an interesting character to bring in. And whether she comes in as a bad guy or a good guy will remain to be seen. But there's already talk of an Echo series happening. And knowing her history from the comics, having Kingpin and Daredevil in that series would make a lot of sense. And this is a good point to mention the Young Avengers. We've been introduced to a lot of young heroes: Wiccan, Speed, Patriot, Kid Loki in the Loki series. They're recasting Cassie Lang and Ant-Man. These are all heroes, part of the Young Avengers, including Kate Bishop as Hawkeye. So they've been slowly giving us these characters, giving us the idea that we're going to get a Young Avengers series. Now, will it be a Disney Plus series? Will it be a movie? Again, remains to be seen. Hell, one of the characters that is in the Young Avengers is Iron Lad, who's a young version of Kang, and we've just met Kang. So it does feel like that we're starting to get all these pieces. So we'll have to see how this moves forward. Also, you'll notice that we're losing all the original Avengers. Cap is gone. We have a new Captain America. Iron Man's gone. Black Widow's gone, but we have Yelena Belova now. And we also have John Walker, but we won't talk about him as a new Cap. Well, if this is the end of Hawkeye, we are getting a new Hawkeye. We have Thor and the Hulk will be the only members of the original team still around, and we're about to meet She-Hulk. So maybe Marvel is starting to go basically Generation 2. Now, while whichever new series comes out, we're also going to get the Eternals movie, which comes out in November. And the Eternals, this is where we finally get into the cosmic scale of things. This is going to be big, epic tale. We've seen the trailer for it. It looks gorgeous. It looks epic. But there are so many characters being introduced in this series that's going to span eons. I think it's going to be really hard for it to immediately fit into the MCU. I think they're going to have to establish themselves first before, again, like Shang-Chi, doing any big MCU shaking stuff. So this is more likely to, now this is going to tie into the cosmic realm. The Guardians of the Galaxies, the Captain Marvel, we know the Celestials are involved, and that's where we've been seeing these kind of characters. But like I said, I think other than 2 potential Avengers being introduced in this series, in Cersei and the Black Knight, I think the Eternals are pretty much going to play in their own little universe, at least for the first movie. Maybe we get a hint of Kang as Rama Tut at some point. You know, that would be an interesting cameo because they do cover all this time. So at some point they're back in Egypt and they interact with Jonathan Majors as Rama Tut. But other than that, I think this will be used just to introduce the character because there are so many freaking characters in this movie and there's so much story. I mean, this is, if you know Jack Kirby's New Gods that he did for DC, when that didn't get to finish the way he wanted it to, he went back to Marvel and he created the Eternals. Jack always wanted this big, self-contained, grandiose, epic story, and where he didn't get to do it to finish it properly at DC, he came over to do it back at Marvel again. So that's what the Eternals is. Now, so again, and we're still moving along in phase 4 pretty quickly here, but I'm starting to run out of time of the show, so I need to speed up a little. Now, by the end of the year, we should get Miss Marvel, which will introduce a character which could work into the Young Avengers group as well, and is set to appear in the Marvels later on, which is Captain Marvel 2. The character in the comics is part of the Inhumans, a group that was totally mishandled by Marvel Television. I mean, just badly handled. The only thing that was good that came out of the Inhuman series was Anson Mount's portrayal of Black Bolt was pretty good, and Maximus was pretty. Was Maximus his brother? I don't remember the name of the character off the top of my head. Those 2 were pretty good. The rest of the show just wasn't that good. So we're going to pretend it doesn't exist, and it had major ties. So they've played with the Inhumans. The Inhumans had major ties to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So again, this is something where Kevin Feige has to decide, what do they keep? What do they abandon? There's a good chance, I think, all of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of Inhumans are just going to be jettisoned. There's been no talk about trying to bring any of it in. So we'll have to see how that works out. But they could also change her and make her a descendant of the Eternals, or they could embrace the Inhumans and kind of build them back up slowly. But again, they've got so much going on. How much do they really want to take on, especially since we also have we're going to have Secret Invasion coming up down the line. Marvel might need to start condensing some of their concepts or streamlining it because there's just so much to go through. So it wouldn't surprise me if suddenly Miss Marvel is either an Eternal or a mutant rather than an Inhuman. But we will find out when the show debuts. And while all of this seems like a ton for just 1 year, still one more movie. We're going to get Spider-Man No Way Home in December. And if just a quarter of the rumors about this movie are true, it's going to be absolutely crazy. This is likely where we'll first see the real fallout from the ending of Loki. We're going to get that in Doctor Strange, but this is where we'll first see the fallout. We're supposed to get Doc Ock again from Spider-Man 2. We're supposed to get Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2. And both will be appearing in versions of their own character, the characters from those movies. So according to Alfred Molina, he's still the same Doc Ock. So he's not just playing this universe's version of Doc Ock. He's supposed to be picking up from the end of Spider-Man 2. So Now, also, there's been an absolute insane amount of rumors about Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Willem Dafoe, all popping up, and of course the Charlie Cox rumors. Now, all of that could be just internet going crazy, and I wouldn't set my expectation level there if it hasn't been confirmed by Kevin Feige or at least a handful of really reputable sites like Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, something like that. Then I would assume that it's just rumors. But we last saw Spider-Man, who was being outed by J. Jonah Jameson, who's the same actor from the original Spider-Man movies. Thanks to Mysterio, he gets outed. And how much is that going to play into the film? And if so, he's probably going to need a lawyer. Matt Murdock would be a good person to call. Now, will they deal with that? Will this be about him trying to reset his life? Or will he be dealing with all the multiverse stuff? Will it be completely different? It's still totally up in the air. Until we at least get a trailer and get a hint of what's going on, it's total speculation at this point. Now, I think this will help establish some of the connections to the other Sony films, like Venom and Morbius. And I know Sony wants Tom Holland to cross over. We've seen the trailer for Morbius, and we know that Michael Keaton pops up in there. So there has to be some connection. But I think it'll establish a connection between the Sonyverse and the MCU, but still leave Peter squarely in the MCU. I also think this will lead directly into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. This may end with a cliffhanger that goes right into that movie. I could see that happening. All right. Again, have to speed up a little bit. From here, things get a bit vaguer. We have multiple television series on the line. We got Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Secret Wars, all expected to air in 2022. Second seasons of Loki and What If to fit in somewhere. An unscheduled series like Ironheart, Armor Wars, and of course, the rumored Echo series. Plus, we've got a bunch of films slated as well. Thor, Love and Thunder, May 6th. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, July 8th. The Marvels, November 11th. Then we get over to 2023. We've got Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania on February 17th with Kang the Conqueror. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, May 5th. Again, that's a ton of content. And all of it kicks off, of course, with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness on March 25th. Now, we know very little about Doctor Strange sequel other than it's a Sam Raimi directed and will include both Wanda and Loki, plus returning characters Wong. Mordo is coming back, and we know where he was at the end of the last film, trying to kill all the sorcerers. Also, Christina Palmer is going to pop back up again. So we'll be introduced to another young hero as well, named America Chavez, who has the ability to punch holes between multiverses. That seems like a good timing to bring her in anyway. I think it's a pretty safe bet that while Doc and his friends will be trying to clean up the mess created by the Loki series, I don't think we're going to get Kang at this point. He might be a cameo or something like that, but I think we're just going to get little background stuff with Kang, kind of, again, with like Thanos was, and he's off the board really until Ant-Man 3. And since they're making Doctor Strange as more of a horror film, the likelihood is we're going to get more of a villain like Nightmare or Shumagorath, something darker, something more mystical, and something tied into the Darkhold rather than something more cosmic. Kang, again, might be a background player or a cameo in the same way that Thanos was. But, yeah, I think, again, he's off the table until Ant-Man 3. And I have a feeling he'll carry out until the unscheduled Fantastic Four movie, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, the reason I think that it's having to do with the pattern that Kevin Feige has created has been using that through the first three phases. Each phase ends with a big team-up movie. Avengers for the end of Phase 1, Avengers Age of Ultron for Phase 2, and of course Avengers Endgame for Phase 3. Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home was after that, but it's more of an epilogue, and I don't count that. I think Avengers Endgame really ended Phase 3. Now, Phase 4 might have this as well, because there's the unscheduled Blade movie, and it might end up at the end, but I don't think that'll be the real end of the phase. Or it might come before the Fantastic Four movie. But they keep popping that Fantastic Four logo up at the end anytime they talk about Phase 4. Now, Marvel loves ending each phase with a big budget film with tons of heroes, and there really is an Avengers team to do that. So I expect that there's a good chance we're going to meet the Fantastic Four before the movie. I think we're going to probably get them in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They might be adrift in the quantum realm, or we'll get them in the Marvels, and they'll be the missing astronauts mentioned in WandaVision. I think those are the two big openings that Marvel has to give us a hint of the characters and maybe bring them in early and then giving them the big movie. But we won't really see what they can do until they're called upon to stop Kang or a Kang variant, because, maybe Ant-Man stops Kang, but then we get Immortus or the Scarlet Centurion or Rama Tut. You get the idea. I think Fantastic Four will wrap up the Kang storyline so that Marvel then can focus on something like the Dark Avengers or the Thunderbolts for Phase 5, or maybe go more cosmic with the Celestials or Galactus. Marvel's laying a lot of plot threads out there right now. It's just so much. I think they won't want to linger too long on the multiverse idea, as it might cause some burnout among fans, especially after the whole time travel ending in the Infinity Saga. But this is just speculation, and we could be heading into a multi-phase Kang War story, so we're just going to have to wait and find out. But if I had to put my money down, I think that Phase 4 is the Kang phase. I think and then after that, we're going to either build towards something cosmic or something more grounded with a Dark Avengers team, because they're laying that groundwork as well. So, but you can only do so many things at the same time, and their big movie at the end of each phase will kind of deal with those. So I think we're going to get these phases. I don't think are going to be as tied together as the first three were, but then again, you never know. Kevin Feige is kind of a magic mystery guy, and he can put all this stuff together pretty damn well. So, all right. That is my overview of Phase 4, my breakdown on what I think is going to be coming up. I want to remind you guys that we have a special episode tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. This is going to be our 1,000th broadcast since we started, and I'm going to host it, and I am going to interview Kyle Northrup, who does In Stores This Week with me and is the producer behind most of these shows. He's kind of the guy that gets all this going. Amani Latif, who does Black Comic Universe, and which I used to call Black Comics University, which I think would also be a good title, but it's Black Comic Universe. And Nancy McCann from our Friday Night Live show, who is in Cleveland, Tennessee now. And she's so popular, the entire city of Cleveland moved out there with her. Now, tomorrow night, after that, I will be back with my normal show at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, with guest and colorist extraordinaire, Brian Haberlin, who, if you are in comic shops today, has the book Jules Verne's Lighthouse out. He has done so many amazing comics for Image and and a lot of other companies, but he is just a brilliant colorist and a super nice guy, and I think you guys will really enjoy our conversation. So he'll be here live tomorrow night. So come join us for the special 1,000th broadcast, or the Dan Wickline Show, and your guys' questions are as much part of the show as anything else. So please come in and ask your questions. Enjoy the show. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up here. I know Kyle's on the board going, give me another minute. Give me just another minute. Just one more minute of fill. So thank you guys. Remember to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at _EXP1. Also, when you're watching the shows, do us a favor. Hit the like buttons, the subscribe buttons, those things. Let us know you're out there. Let us know you're watching. Tell your friends about it. Let's build up a huge community here. Let's make this just a big community of comic book love. So that's what we're going for here, a big community of comic book love. And we all worship Kyle Northrup. Yep.